The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was built to make visitors feel small. Its ceiling stretched so high that clouds formed near the top. Its walls were covered in gold and precious stones from 100 different worlds. Every species in the known galaxy had sent their leaders here at some point, and every species had bent their knee to the Council's power. Every species except one. Ambassador Hannah Sue walked through the massive doors for the 47th time. Her footsteps echoed in the silence. Behind her walked the aides, their faces tired but determined. 3 years. 3 years of coming to this place, asking for the same simple things, and being laughed at every single time. Today felt different. Hannah could not explain why. Something in her chest told her that this would be the last time. The council members sat on floating platforms high above the floor. There were 12 of them, representing the 12 most powerful species in the galaxy. At the center sat High Speaker Volus, a tall creature with gray skin and 4 eyes that never blinked. He looked down at Hannah the way a person might look at an insect. "The human returns," Volus said. His voice filled the entire hall. "How? ... Persistent." Laughter rippled through the chamber. Hannah kept her face calm. She had learned long ago that showing anger only made them laugh harder. "High Speaker," she began, "I come today to repeat humanity's simple requests. We ask for mining rights in Sector 7G, which your own records show is unclaimed. We ask for basic trade agreements with willing species. And we ask for formal recognition as a sentient species under galactic law." Volus leaned forward. "And what does humanity offer in return?" "Our friendship," Hannah said. "Our technology. Our culture. We wish only to be part of the galactic community." "Friendship," Volus repeated. He made the word sound like a joke. "The Korath Dominion has a counter-proposal." From one of the floating platforms, Warlord Reth spoke. He was massive, covered in thick scales, with teeth like knives. "Humanity will surrender its entire fleet to the Council. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. This will prove your peaceful intentions." Hannah's aides shifted uncomfortably behind her. She remained still. "You ask us to make ourselves defenseless," she said. "We ask you to prove you are not the violent animals our studies suggest," Reth replied. "Your species has a troubling history. Wars, genocide, destruction of your own world. Why should we trust creatures like you with starships?" Hannah took a slow breath. "Every species has a violent past, including the Korath." The chamber went silent. Reth's eyes narrowed. "You dare compare us to humans?" "I state a fact." Volus raised a hand before Reth could respond. "Enough. The Council has reviewed humanity's requests many times. Our answer remains the same. Humans have nothing we want. Your technology is primitive. Your culture is crude. Your species is young and foolish. Perhaps in another 1,000 years, when you have matured, we will consider your application." 1,000 years, Hannah repeated quietly. "If you survive that long." Volus smiled, showing teeth that were too white, too perfect. "History shows that species like yours usually destroy themselves. It is only a matter of time." More laughter. This time it was louder, crueler. Even the species that had remained silent before now joined in. They looked at Hannah like she was entertainment, a funny little creature performing for their amusement. Hannah stood very still. In her ear, a tiny device crackled. Admiral Tae Woo's voice came through, transmitted from Earth Command millions of light years away. "Hannah, is there any hope?" She did not answer immediately. Instead, she looked up at the council members, one by one. She saw their contempt, their arrogance, their absolute certainty that humanity was beneath them. In that moment, Hannah remembered the colony ships. 3 vessels carrying 50,000 men, women, and children to new homes among the stars. Ships that had vanished without a trace 6 months ago. Ships that Earth Command now believed had been destroyed by Council forces. Though they could not prove it, 50,000 people, families, children, gone. "They don't want peace," Hannah said softly into her communicator. They want submission. Or extinction. There was a long pause. Then Taewoo's voice returned, heavy with something that might have been sorrow or might have been cold. Terrible resolve. Then we know what we must do. Hannah reached up and removed the diplomatic badge from her chest. The symbol of her office, sign that she spoke for all of Earth. She held it in her hand for a moment, feeling its weight. The council members watched with mild curiosity. What was the little human doing now? Hannah dropped the badge. It clattered on the floor, the sound echoing through the vast chamber. Earth withdraws from all negotiations, she said. Her voice was calm, clear, and carried to every corner of the hall. Effective immediately. We will not return. Volus blinked all four of his eyes. You cannot be serious. I am completely serious. We'll crawl back within a month. Reth laughed. Your species needs us. You have no choice. Hannah turned and began walking toward the exit. Her aides followed, their eyes wide but their steps steady. This is a mistake, human, Volus called after her. Your people will suffer for your pride. Hannah stopped at the great doors. She looked back one final time at the council, at these beings who thought themselves masters of the galaxy. She almost smiled.
Perhaps, she said.
But not in the way you think. She walked out. The doors closed behind her with a sound like thunder. The council laughed again, but this time the laughter faded quickly. Something about the way the human had spoken made a few of them uncomfortable. Elder Pox of the Lumori stared at the closed doors for a long time, his ancient face troubled. Something is wrong, he said quietly. No one listened. Hannah boarded her shuttle. As the small ship lifted away from the station, she entered a code into the communication system. A single phrase encrypted and aimed at Earth. Protocol Omega is authorized. Somewhere millions of light years away, Admiral Taewoo received the message. He closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, they were hard as stone. Begin mobilization, he ordered. All fleets, all forces, full war footing. The galaxy had made its choice. Now humanity would make theirs, and the galaxy would learn that humans did not beg. They did not crawl. When pushed too far, they did not surrender. They fought. 2 months passed. In that time, humanity sent no messages, no trade requests, no diplomatic communications. Earth went completely silent, and the galaxy did not know what to think. At first, the council celebrated. They believed they had finally broken the stubborn humans. Warlord Reth held a great feast in his palace on Korath Prime, raising a glass to toast humanity's defeat. The little creatures have crawled back to their tiny world, he announced to his generals. They sit in their single system, crying over their failure. Perhaps they will destroy themselves and save us the trouble. His generals laughed and cheered. The Korath were warriors, proud and strong. The thought of pathetic humans challenging them was the best joke they had heard in years. But not everyone was laughing. Elder Pax of the Lumori sat in his private chamber, studying everything his people had collected about humanity. The Lumori were ancient, older than most species in the galaxy. They had seen civilizations rise and fall. They knew the signs of danger, and something about humanity's silence frightened him. They are not broken, he said to his assistant. A young Lumori named Sol, a broken species, sends messages begging for mercy. They try to negotiate. They make desperate offers. Humanity has done none of these things. Then what are they doing? Sol asked. Pax looked at the data on his screen. Human history. Human wars. Human survival against impossible odds. They are preparing, he said quietly. And we should all be very afraid, he tried to warn the council. They ignored him. Far across the galaxy, Earth was indeed preparing. In the hidden places of the solar system, shipyards that had been kept secret for decades came to life. Massive construction platforms hidden in asteroid fields began building ships. Not trading vessels. Not exploration craft. Warships, Admiral Taewoo, stood on the command deck of the flagship. A ship so large it made the council's greatest vessels look like toys. Its name was painted on the hull in bold letters, Vengeance. Status report, he said. Dr. Unikim approached him with a tablet in her hands. She was thin and tired, having slept only a few hours in the past week. But her eyes were sharp and her mind was sharper. 14 fleets are ready, she said. Over 2,000 warships, weapons that the galaxy has never seen. FTL drives that are twice as fast as anything the Council has. The soldiers? General Sunjin reports 2 million ground troops are trained and equipped. They are loading onto transport ships now. Tae-woo nodded slowly. And our targets? Yuna pulled up a holographic map of the galaxy. 14 points glowed red. Communication relay stations. Military supply depots. Shipyards. If we hit all 14 simultaneously, we will cripple the Council's ability to coordinate their forces. They will be blind, deaf, and scattered. How long until they can recover? Months, maybe longer. Long enough for us to establish complete control of key sectors. Tae-woo stared at the map for a long time. He thought about the 50,000 colonists who had died. Men and women who had only wanted new homes for their families. Children who would never grow up. The Council had murdered them and then laughed at humanity's pain. We do not simply want to hurt them, he said. We want to win completely. We want them to understand that they made a terrible mistake. They will understand, Yuna said. By the time they realize what is happening, it will already be too late. On the lower decks of another warship, the Iron Will, Captain Daeho, addressed his crew. 3,000 men and women stood at attention, their faces serious. They were young and old, from every nation on Earth. Different languages, different cultures, but united by a single purpose. You all know why we are here, Daeho said. The galaxy called us primitive. They called us animals. They murdered our families and laughed about it. His voice grew harder. They thought we would accept this. They thought we would beg for forgiveness. They were wrong. He walked among his crew, looking at their faces. When we jump into battle, the enemy will outnumber us. They will think they have already won. But they do not know what humans can do when we fight for something we believe in. They do not know our history. They do not know our strength. He stopped and raised his fist. We are not the victims anymore. We are the storm. And we will not stop until every one of our dead has been avenged. The crew roared in response, their voices shaking the walls of the ship. On Earth, Ambassador Hanasu stood in front of a camera. She wore a military uniform now, not the diplomatic robes she had worn for 3 years. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with cold fire. She recorded a message. When the war began, it would be broadcast across every channel in the galaxy. Every species, every world, every being would hear her words. To the Galactic Council and all who follow them, you believed humanity was weak. You believed we would accept your cruelty. You murdered 50,000 of our people and expected no consequences. You were wrong about all of it. She leaned closer to the camera. We came to you seeking peace. You gave us war. Now you will have it. Not the war you expected. Not a war you can win. You created this. Remember that in the days to come, the recording ended. Hannah transmitted it to Admiral Tae-woo. It was ready, in his command center. Tae-woo watched the clock count down. 0 hour approached. 14 fleets waited in the darkness between stars, their crews silent, their weapons armed. He thought about his wife, who had died on one of those colony ships. His daughter, only 7 years old, who would never come home. The Council had taken everything from him. Now he would take everything from them. All ships, he said into the fleet-wide channel. His voice was steady. You know your targets. You know your mission. May our ancestors watch over us, and may our enemies learn to fear the name human. He paused. The clock hit 0. All fleets engage. Across the galaxy, 14 points of space suddenly tore open as the human fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel. Warning alarms screamed on Council stations. Crew members ran to their posts in panic, but it was already too late. The humans had come, and they had brought war with them. The first battle lasted 3 hours. When it ended, Korath's defense fleet was nothing but floating metal and fire. Captain Deho stood on the bridge of the Iron Will, watching the destruction through the main view screen. Around him, his crew worked with smooth efficiency, each person doing their job without hesitation. They had trained for this. They had waited for this. Enemy flagship is attempting to retreat, his tactical officer reported. No retreats, Deho said. All forward batteries target their engines. The Iron Will fired. Beams of blue energy cut through space, striking the massive Korath warship. Its engines exploded, and the ship began to drift, helpless and burning. Across the fleet communication channel, reports came in from every battle group. Relay Station 7 had fallen. The supply depot at Grid 9 was destroyed. Human ground forces had captured the communication hub on Moon Kilos. The galaxy was learning a terrible lesson. Humanity had not been primitive. Humanity had been hiding in his palace on Korath Prime. Warlord Reth stared at the battle reports in disbelief. His hands shook. His 400-ship defense fleet, the pride of the Dominion, had been cut to pieces by fewer than 100 human vessels. How is this possible? He demanded. Their ships are supposed to be weak. Their weapons are supposed to be simple. His advisor stepped forward carefully. It appears, Warlord, that our intelligence was ... incorrect. Human weapons are far more advanced than we believed. Their ships are faster. Their tactics are unlike anything we have seen. They tricked us. Yes, Warlord. They let us believe they were weak. We laughed at them while they built an army capable of destroying us. Reth slammed his fist against the wall. The stone cracked beneath his strength. He had mocked the humans. He had called them animals. Now those animals were tearing his empire apart. On the council station, High Speaker Volus tried to coordinate a response. But every communication channel was filled with static or screams. Human forces had targeted their relay stations first, cutting off the council's ability to talk to their own fleets. Oh. Where are our reinforcements? Volus demanded. Cannot reach them, his assistant said. The humans have blocked all long-range communications. Our fleets are scattered. They do not know where to go or who to fight. Volus felt something he had never felt before. Fear. Elder Pax entered the council chamber. His old face was grim. I warned you, he said quietly. I told you the silence was dangerous. You did not listen. This is not the time for blame, Volus snapped. No, it is the time for truth. Pax walked closer, his eyes fixed on the High Speaker. You pushed them. You humiliated them. You murdered their colonists and thought there would be no price. Now the price has come, and it is higher than anything you imagined. We will defeat them. We have more ships, more soldiers, more resources.
Pax
Shook his head slowly. You still do not understand. I have studied human history, their wars, their survival. When humans fight, they do not stop. They do not accept defeat. They find a way to win, or they die trying. Every single one of them. They cannot defeat the entire galaxy. They do not need to defeat the entire galaxy. They only need to defeat you. And right now, that is exactly what they are doing. Across every channel in the galaxy, Ambassador Hannah Sue's recorded message began to play. Her face appeared on screens in a billion homes, her voice reaching every species that had ever looked down on humanity. To the Galactic Council and all who follow them. You believed humanity was weak. You believed we would accept your cruelty. You murdered 50,000 of our people and expected no consequences. You were wrong about all of it. On 100 worlds, being stopped what they were doing to watch and listen. We came to you seeking peace. You gave us war. Now you will have it. Not the war you expected. Not a war you can win. You created this. Remember that in the days to come, the message ended. Silence followed. General Sung Jin led the ground assault on Relay Station Alpha, the largest communication hub in Council space. His troops landed in hundreds of drop pods, falling from the sky like metal rain. The station's defenders fought hard, but they had never faced human soldiers before. The humans moved like ghosts. They used the terrain, the shadows, the confusion of battle. They never stopped advancing. When one fell, another took their place. Within 6 hours, the station was captured. Sung Jin stood in the control room surrounded by his soldiers. On the screens around him, he could see Council forces across the galaxy, calling desperately for help. Help that would never come. "Broadcast our signal," he ordered. "Let them know this station belongs to humanity now." Captain Daeho received new orders from Admiral Tae-woo. The Korath defense fleet was destroyed, but their ground forces on the planet below were still active. "It was time to end this, all ships," Daeho said. "We are not here to occupy. We are here to send a message. Target their military installations, shipyards, weapons factories, nothing else, sir," his weapons officer said carefully. "There are civilian areas near some of those targets." Daeho's jaw tightened. "Then we will be precise. Humans do not murder civilians. We are not the Council." The bombardment began. Surgical strikes perfectly aimed. Military targets burned, while civilian buildings remained untouched. The Korath, watching from the ground, could not believe what they were seeing. An enemy who could destroy everything, choosing to show mercy. It confused them. It frightened them. And slowly, it made some of them realize that perhaps they had been wrong about humans all along. As the first day of war ended, Admiral Tae-woo reviewed the reports. Every target had been hit. Every objective had been achieved. The Council's military power was crippled. Their communication network was in ruins. Their fleets were scattered and leaderless, and humanity was just getting started. Tae-woo looked at the stars through his window. Somewhere out there, the Council was realizing the terrible truth. They had awakened something they could not stop. They had turned humanity from peaceful explorers into determined warriors. "Send a message to all fleet commanders," he said. "Phase 1 is complete. Begin Phase 2. We push forward until they surrender or fall." The war continued, and the galaxy burned. 8 months had passed since the first shots were fired. Half of Council space had fallen to human forces. Species that had once laughed at humanity now begged for mercy. But mercy required truth first. Dr. Yuna Kim stood before a gathering of representatives from Newt. RAL species. Behind her, a massive screen displayed recovered data files, communication logs, and video recordings. The evidence she was about to present would change how the galaxy saw this war. "For months, the Council has called us aggressors," she began. "They have claimed we attacked without reason. They have painted humanity as violent savages who could not accept rejection. Today I will show you the truth." She pressed a button. The screen lit up with intercepted communications between High Speaker Volus and Warlord Reth, dated 6 months before the war began. "The human colony ships must not reach their destinations," Voles's voice said clearly. "If they establish new worlds, humanity will spread. They will become impossible to control." "My ships will handle it," Reth replied. "We will destroy them in deep space. Make it look like an accident. Engine failure, perhaps. 50,000 humans," Volus said. "A small price to keep the galaxy pure." The recording ended. The room was silent. Representatives stared at the screen with wide eyes and open mouths. Yuna continued, her voice cold and steady. 3 colony ships. 50,000 men, women, and children. Families looking for new homes. The youngest passenger was 2 months old. The oldest was 93 years. The Council murdered them all and then invited us to negotiations, laughing at our requests for peace while the blood of our people was still on their hands. Sensor logs from Korath warships. Body counts. The names and faces of every person who had died. The galaxy watched, and the galaxy began to understand. Humanity had not started this war. Humanity was finishing it. The broadcast spread across every world. Species that had supported the Council began to withdraw. Some offered secret help to humanity. Others simply refused to fight against them anymore. The Council's alliance crumbled piece by piece at the Korath shipyards. The final major military installation still in enemy hands, Warlord Reth made his last stand. He had gathered every ship he could find, nearly 300 vessels, and waited for the human fleet to arrive. Captain Deho came with 150 ships. "They outnumber us 2-1, his tactical officer reported. Deho smiled grimly. "Then it will be a fair fight." The battle began. Koroth ships fired everything they had, filling space with weapons fire. But human ships moved differently. They worked together like parts of a single machine, each vessel knowing exactly where to be and when to be there. Reth watched from his flagship as his fleet was torn apart. Ship after ship exploded or went dark. His commander screamed for orders, for help, for miracles. None came. "Impossible," he whispered. "We are the greatest warriors in the galaxy. How can they defeat us?" His advisor, wounded and bleeding beside him, laughed bitterly. "Perhaps, Warlord, they are simply better warriors than we are." Deho's ship closed in on Reth's flagship. The Iron Will fired a precise shot that disabled the Koroth vessel's engines and weapons. The great warship drifted helplessly in space. Warlord Reth Deho's voice came through all channels. "Your fleet is destroyed. Your war is over. Surrender now, and your crew will be treated fairly. Continue to fight, and you will die. The choice is yours." For a long moment, there was silence. Then Reth's voice came back, broken and defeated. "I surrender." General Sung Jin led the assault on the Council homeworld. His ground forces landed in waves, taking military target after military target. But as he had ordered, civilian areas were left untouched. Food distribution continued. Medical facilities remained open. Children still went to school. The people of the Council homeworld watched the human soldiers with confusion and fear. They had been told humans were monsters. They expected death and destruction. Instead, they saw discipline and restraint. "Why do you not destroy everything?" one local asked Sung Jin when they met in a captured government building. "Because we are not like your leaders," Sung Jin replied. "We fight soldiers, not children. We want justice, not genocide. There is a difference." High Speaker Volus tried to run. He fled the council station in a small ship, hoping to reach neutral space where humanity could not touch him. He did not get far. Human patrol ships surrounded his vessel within hours. He was dragged from his ship in chains and brought before Admiral Tae-Woo on the deck of the Vengeance. Tae-Woo looked at the creature who had ordered the deaths of 50,000 innocent people. Volus looked smaller now, his 4 eyes darting around in fear, his gray skin pale. "Do you know who I am?" Tae-Woo asked quietly. "You are the human commander." "I am Tae-Woo. My wife was named Yuna. My daughter was named Min. They were on Colony Ship 3. They were murdered on your orders." Volus opened his mouth to speak, but Tae-Woo raised a hand. "I could kill you now. I want to kill you. Every part of me wants to make you suffer the way my family suffered." He paused, and his voice grew harder. "But I will not. You will stand trial. You will face justice. The galaxy will see what you did and judge you properly. That is the human way." He turned to his guards. "Take him to the detention area. Make sure he is treated fairly. We are not monsters." As Volus was led away, Elder Pax approached Tae-Woo. The old Lumari had come voluntarily, seeking peace between his people and humanity. "You show mercy to those who showed you none," Pax said. "I did not expect this." Tae-Woo looked out at the stars. "We fight because we must, but we will never become what we are fighting against. If we did, what would be the point of winning?" Pax nodded slowly. "The Lumori surrendered to humanity, and we offer you our friendship, if you will have it." For the first time in a long while, Tae-Woo smiled. "We came to the stars looking for friends," he said. "We would be honored to call the Lumari our allies." The war was almost over. And somewhere in the universe, justice was finally coming. 1 year had passed since the last battle of the war. The galaxy had changed forever. On a bright morning on Earth, Admiral Tae-Woo stood before a crowd of millions. His uniform was covered with medals, but he did not wear them proudly. Each one represented lives lost, battles fought, and sacrifices made. He was tired. The war had taken everything from him, and now it was time to rest. Today I retire from military service, he announced. His voice carried across the square through speakers that broadcast to every human world. The war is won. Peace has come. It is time for others to lead humanity forward. He turned to the man standing beside him. Captain Deho, now Admiral Deho, wore his new rank with quiet dignity. The young commander who had led the assault on Korath Prime was now the highest military officer in human space. Admiral Deho will command our fleets, Taewoo continued. I trust him with my life and with the future of our people. Serve him as you served me, crowd cheered. Taewoo stepped back and Deho stepped forward. Their eyes met for a moment. No words were needed. They had been through too much together for words. In the great hall that had once belonged to the Galactic Council, a new organization was being born. Ambassador Hannah Sue stood at the center of a circular table where representatives from 100 species sat as equals. No one floated above another. No one looked down on anyone else. We call this the New Galactic Compact, Hannah said. Every species has one voice. Every species has one vote. No one will be laughed at for being different. No one will be rejected for being new. We will build something better than what came before. Elder Pax of the Lumori rose to speak. My people have lived for 10,000 years. We have seen many empires rise and fall. The old council believed that power made them right. They were wrong. Humanity has taught us that strength and kindness can exist together. The Lumari are proud to stand with our human friends. The representatives applauded. For the first time in galactic history, species that had been enemies sat together as partners. The war crime trials lasted for months. High Speaker Volus stood before judges from 20 different species. The evidence against him was overwhelming. He had ordered the deaths of 50,000 innocent humans. He had lied to the galaxy. He had started a war that killed millions. When the verdict came, Volus showed no emotion. He had stopped begging for mercy long ago. Guilty of crimes against sentient life, the chief judge announced. The sentence is death. Volus was executed the next day. It was not celebrated. It was simply justice, cold and final. Warlord Reth received a different sentence. He had been a soldier following orders. Terrible orders, but orders nonetheless. He would spend the rest of his life in prison. Thinking about what he had done, other council leaders faced their own judgments. Some were imprisoned. Some were freed after showing they had opposed the worst decisions. The galaxy watched as accountability finally came to those who had escaped it for so long. General Sung. Jin returned to the former Korath War worlds. His new mission was not conquest, but healing. Weapons factories were converted to build hospitals. Military bases became schools. The species that had been forced to serve the Korath Dominion were given their freedom. What will happen to us now? A young Korath named Kira asked him. She had been an envoy once, present at the negotiations where Hannah Sue had walked out. She remembered how her leaders had laughed. She was not laughing anymore. That depends on you, Sung Jin replied. The Korath can choose what kind of people they want to be. The war is over. The killing is done. Now it is time to build. Kira looked at the human general with new eyes. You could have destroyed us completely. Yes, but you did not. No. Why? Sung Jin thought about the question for a long moment. Because we wanted to be better than our enemies. And because somewhere out there, a Korath child is watching. I want that child to see that humans kept their word. Maybe then they will choose peace instead of war. Kira bowed her head. I will help, she said quietly. I will work for reconciliation between our peoples. It is the least I can do. Dr. Unikim established the Galactic Peace Institute on a space station between human and Lumari territory. Its mission was simple: study why wars happen and learn how to prevent them. The old council believed that strength was the only thing that mattered. She told her first class of students, beings from a dozen different species, they were wrong. Understanding matters. Respect matters. The willingness to see others as equals matters. If we can teach these things, perhaps the next generation will never have to fight a war like the one we survived. On a quiet evening, Hannah Sue visited a memorial garden on Earth. 50,000 names were carved into walls of black stone, one for every person lost on the colony ships. She walked slowly along the walls, reading the names, remembering faces she had never met. She stopped at one section. A family. Father, mother, daughter. The Tay family. Admiral Tay Wu's wife and child. Hannah stood in silence for a long time. These were the people she had gone to war for. Not for power. Not for glory. For justice. For memory. For the promise that their deaths would mean something 10 years after the war ended. The galaxy gathered for a ceremony of remembrance. Admiral Tay Wu, now an old man with white hair and tired eyes, stood before the assembly one last time. They called us primitive, he said, his voice still strong despite his age. They called us aggressive. They were half right. Humanity is aggressive, but only when we must be. We came to the stars, seeking friends. We found enemies, and we did what humans have always done. We survived. We adapted. We overcame. He paused, looking out at the gathered beings from 100 worlds. Let this be the lesson the galaxy never forgets. Humanity does not start wars, but we finish them. And when the fighting is done, we extend our hand in friendship to anyone who wants peace. This is who we are. This is who we will always be. The crowd rose in applause. Old enemies stood beside new allies. Former warriors stood beside former diplomats. The galaxy, scarred by war, was healing. In a corner of the observation deck, a human child and a Lumari child played together. They did not know about the war. They did not understand the sacrifices their parents had made. They only knew that they were friends, laughing under alien stars. That was the future their ancestors had fought for, and it was finally here.